That's good. Yeah.
Bluetooth mode. Bluetooth connected. Blind mode.
Where's the sound, homie? No sound?
Bluetooth mode. Bluetooth connected.
Oh, hell yeah. Dun, 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 dun. What's up? This gonna work? Let's see. Oh man. Oh man. That's fun.
On this track, we hear commentary by director of photography Jeff Cronin, costume designer production designer Alex McDowell, visual effects supervisor Kevin Howe, and digital animator Doc Bailey.
It was a wide angle.
Doc Bailey.
At the beginning of this project, when it was sort of in pre-production, there were 4 main effect sequences. There was the sort of corporate sculpture explosion, demolition. There was the main title sequence. There was Jack's apartment fire with the stove and refrigerator. Part of his apartment goes up. Then there was the closing scene, which was basically the demolition of a fictitious city that just happened to look a lot like Century City. You know, it's supposed to be like Wilmington, Delaware, or something like that. Oh, and then there was another sequence, which was the airplane explosion also. That was a big one. So I guess there were 4 or 5 sequences. Maybe there was another one. I bid on all of those. And as time went on, the complexity of the project started to increase, and it actually started to get blocked out, and I figured out how much time and resources I actually was going to have. Rather than build up a big factory out of my studio, I decided to just stay the same size as I was and just take on one shot, which was the demolition at the end.
Jeff Cronenworth.
I watched the whole process of the title sequence come together from time to time. So each layer built upon itself, it just got more and more magical. However, I do have a problem with how fast my name goes by. I was going to say the same thing, Jeff. It's the only problem I see here. The lighting standpoint, this whole beginning and ending sequence was an interesting time. There was a vacant high-rise that didn't really have any fixtures built into it. So in order to keep the all natural, realistic photography, we had to come up with some practical sources that could motivate any kind of light sources in the whole floor of this building. We use these outdoor Home Depot work lights and spread them out strategically in this building and use them to motivate our sources and then sheet it around it.
Kevin Howard.
The technique photography was it put Michael Middle to visual effects photography. It's funny, we hired Michael Middle to choose first, but with by tradition, that's what told still, they don't want to do TV. When I talked to Jeff earlier on, he said, well, sure, I'd love to do it. But of course, I'm not going to forget where was Jeff was going to get a chance to work on and still came while I was doing what he was hired to be there doing. So we brought in Michael and we started shooting him. Michael's this old aptitude man. He's been around for a long time. We kept putting him in all these like really dangerous, crazy positions. In Century City, in the middle of the night, we had to cross those streets. And it was the middle of the night in that, but still, we had one cop, and there was Pierre Buffin standing next to Michael Middleton in the middle of the street. And people are stupid, they just drive down the street, they want to turn where they want to turn, and there's people standing in the way, but they don't get it. And they just keep barreling along as they're going to move out of the way. And the cop was moving them out of the way. He got fairly crazy. We had him on types of buildings and all sorts of other things, all these stills. I think we shot miles of film. Carrie listened with a small room filled with still photos. We would do 3.5 by 5 stills and lay them out so that we could pick which ones they needed, and then we could pick which ones if there was something to choose. It was pretty fun. It was not your usual visual effects kind of tracking job. We had to sort of make up our own working things. And Luke didn't turn out to be a whole lot of help on that score. We thought they would have all these techniques figured out. And they showed up when we started doing the sex sequence, and they really looked at we were doing the sex. I like this one, let's do it like this. So, we thought this was sort of like a starting point. We thought we could help status.
Okay.
He was wearing this camouflage blue tie. You got status up there. He was full of that. Must have had his own way, I think. So many others that became slaves. He actually messed up instincts. If I saw something clever, like a little coffee table in the shape of a union, I had to have it. The Cliff's personal office unit, the contract home exercise, the real on-shelf sofa with the stream green stripe pattern. Even there was locked wire lamps of environmentally friendly unbleached paper. I'd flipped through catalogs and wondered if the dialects that defines me as a person. I had it all. Even the glass dishes with tiny bubbles of new confections.
There are 5 subliminal brads in the world. Most people can find 3 of them. There's a 4th that's kind of difficult. There's a 5th that anybody can find unless they've worked on the movie can find the spot. Because he's actually in video, it's playback on the screen, so it's not like the other ones. It's called extra video. So, but anyway, the theory here was that Brad was coming out out of his consciousness at that point. So it's also just a single frame thing going on with the crossovers and the cigarette burns and all these things are all sort of a piece. So the idea of sticking Brad in there in a couple of places where he didn't really belong was almost from the beginning of prep. I think it was some idea that maybe David had talked over with Brad earlier and came in and said, I don't do this. It was relatively easy. Brad would show up on the day, when he wasn't on the call sheet, and David would have to stand out there and sort of, find the frame, drop him in. But the trickiest part would be some of the shots were really long, and the natural shots.
Moderation.
Technical bullshit, basically. But we found a couple of tricky places to slip in the middle of our act focus. So he's sharp focus out on the frame with that piece of sharp focus.
Come on!
There was a lot of people complaining that nobody realized that you couldn't see it. So since nobody could see it, what we were doing it, we basically doing it from the DVD crowd is what we decided. So we gave them pretty fun for that. Because up until you can frame by frame, basically it's the most expensive piece of dirt you'll ever see. And it just sort of disappears. You assume it's made dirt. The Brads are the first ones when he's looking back over the copier. One when he comes out of the church and walks around and looks up the alley at Marla. One is when they're in the remaining room together, and he's got his arm wrapped around the shoulder of the guy. And then another is in the hospital corridor. And then one is a piece of playback when the head is in the hotel room at one point early in the movie, and he's looking forward, and everybody's saying, welcome, and there's Brett back there. So he's not actually so subliminal at that point, he's a little bit longer, but he's so hidden that we figured. At one point, we were actually going to pop him in and laughing too, when David looked at him, was like, forget it, this is fine.
Hey.
Talking about Bob, he had lost a lot of weight.
Bob.
We needed him to be quite obese, and so we created this whole fat suit out of foam, and this dresser actually.
I don't have any time for fitness. That's too fast.
Nylon stockings filled with bird seed, so that they'd kind of be pendulous when he was moving and running around.
What's afterlife
And the
shit?
nipples were initially not put on and looked very strange, and so we set little buttons on. And they did the trick.
On camera, it looked fantastically realistic, although I did put a weight on Meatloaf, and that he would be restricted the amount of times that he could actually wear it. Created a lot of heat.
Extremely heavy. It was hard for him to stand in for long periods of time.
I think that some of this was achieved when we printed it down. There was quite a bit of latitude the way that we exposed the negative, so we had a few choices, but I thought I would get more heat for the fact that you don't see a lot of eyes. It's a bunch of raccoons, at least in the beginning of the picture, which was all part of the heat for using practical sources in realistic locations. So,
Odin, come on.
normally have hot light sources, and so we went with it and added elements of green tones to these sequences to kind of give it this look of reality. I mean, at least Edward reality in the movie.
What did he do?
They
Oh
created
no.
dramatic lighting sequences and lit people dramatically and created a lot of contrast, which Michael helped with. We didn't have all of the tonality of the clothes were rather down. We didn't have anything that popped up the screen. We treated all the white so that we wouldn't have any white t-shirts or white sheets or white drapes or anything like that. And I made a fairly rich exposure in spite of where we put the lights, and then created a very nice high light on our printing lights, which gave us a latitude to then go back and create contrast, or not create contrast, but create the richness of this picture by stepping on it.
All the white shirts that Edward wears early on are actually the pale grayish beige. People in wardrobe know that's called a tech white, and there's various stages. I would say this is about a 2 tech, and it's, usually there's 1, 2, and 3 levels of overdyeing that you can do. Just leave the white stone out.
Alex Michelle.
We wanted the ice cave to have that luminous glow that you get sort of from the glacier, and trying to make it as realistic as possible. And we went to very laser testing of paint, because we at one point were willing to cut the foam so thin that you could actually backlight it. But it just wasn't practical. We would have to build as a structure that we had to do that. So we actually ended up doing tests of transparency in paint and building layers of paint up and up until it actually solved the depth and the light, and then did this kind of scalloping which caught backlight from both directions. So trying to just make it as feminine as possible. But there's an example of building something really, really no possibility of drawing, isn't building everything from a scale model. We did a scale model to enormous detail, and then sculptors built a frame which inch by inch to match the screen.
It was interesting to like that set as well. I mean, David had some references, or Alec and David had some references, of, like he said, that,
Come on.
guys,
Come on. Come on. Come on.
And with the idea that his breath would always be CGI later, creating a look that was really fit in the context of our movie, and feeling the ice and having some atmosphere was really cool. Breath to play off of that. It wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be, but I was really happy that it came out.
We also built false perspective in so that it just looked like those backward ends were infinitely far away.
There's a bunch of subliminal penguins in the movie. Edward has a a tie and boxer shorts, and I think a couple other things that we put in several individuals to kind of maybe some kind of psychological reasoning for angling to his power animal.
You have insomnia and you never really sleep. You never really awake.
To begin tonight's communion, Chloe left St.
Chloe looked at her Meryl Streep skeleton with a look that made it smile while Chloe covered in journalistic.
Generally, I wanted Mr. David, wanted the support groups to look real, create real characters, so in all walks of life. So basically, the only thing specific about the recipe is that the Cosbys were a little bit more somber than reality.
It's supposed to be ended on. I want to get ready for the last time. I have photographic movies in my apartment, and we were canceled and we were delayed.
Marla arrived from London, I don't know, a couple weeks before she was supposed to start shooting. She didn't quite know which way to go or who her character was, and she asked for my help, and she asked if there was any way I could describe Marla, and I said, well, I think I see Marla as Judy Garland close to the end, that kind of frameless, that vulnerability, that she had a bird-like quality. And everybody seemed to love that kind of idea, and latched onto it. During shooting, Fincher would call her Judy. I would be sitting in her mobile home waiting to be called onto the set and be listening to old Judy Garland records, getting into it. I love that moment. I just passed me on this one as a couple.
Winner. Odin, where are you? Odin, where are you?
I didn't realize that the coffee was still pouring up the coffee company. Take after take, I never saw it until we were timing the picture. Hysterical.
Yeah, there's so many subtleties. I've seen this movie 4 or 5 times, and I still see things that I haven't seen.
Yeah, I mean, even in dailies, I never noticed it until we were timing the picture. I mean, at that point, you have an opportunity to see a lot because you can't hear anything, so all you're doing is staring at the visuals.
David and I chose to shoot this picture on spherical glass as opposed to anamorphic, primarily for lens choices and speed of those lenses. We found ourselves shooting in a lot of practical locations and inherently wanting to use whatever was there as a basis for our lighting sources and then adding on to that. And in doing so, shooting anamorphic wouldn't have allowed us to shoot under those low light conditions. So we chose spherical lenses and
That'll go.
went on to do the 70mm extraction of that media to get your large theatrical releases. And it certainly shows in depth, at least on some of our night exteriors, when you see city lights in the background that pop out that we couldn't have had happen, with the slower anamorphic glass. So I think it was a great choice. David's so familiar with that. It's just comfortable for both of us, and it would certainly work for this picture. You end up with your larger negative size than traditional 35mm film with Super 35. It gives you a little more material when you go to do your extraction, but they make a dupe and then blow it up. Unfortunately, you pick up grain and contrast in doing so, which is something that I would have. That's the definite bonus of using an anamorphic, is you skip a process and you have a much cleaner image at the end. But then you have a tougher time getting those images to begin with.
So, I don't know, having following through this picture, this being my first picture all the way through as a DP, I was a little bit shocked at the amount of contrast and grain we picked up in the extraction. It was a little bit disappointing, but fortunately, it fits perfectly for this movie.
It's very rare that you see Helena's feet or anyone's feet in this movie, but Helena throughout the entire movie wore extremely high platform shoes because it was right for the character, and also Fincher wanted her to be as tall as possible. She's quite small, and I just started vintage shoes in the 60s and 50s, big platforms, and she teetered out, and I think it added to the character, but also many times she fell off of them, and
What'd you do?
I'd hear her from far away cursing my name.
Hey, Mark. Maybe we should exchange numbers. Should we?
Oh. Come here.
I think every DP should be so lucky to have a face like Helena's to photograph. She has such lovely skin and high cheekbones. You almost can't like her bad. Her presence on screen always comes across and she's so beautiful. But we put her in some not so flattering lighting situations, and she always looked great. I mean, it was inherent to her character, but we weren't afraid to go there. Nor was she. Normally,
Wrong way, bro.
vanity problem,
Wrong way.
which didn't exist with her. In some situations, she had reactions to makeup, and rather than cover them up, she was all game to go for it, and they're huge on those 40-foot screens.
If you wake up at a different time, in a different place.
It's funny, prep time is not what it seems because Helena didn't, being English. I don't think she was in another film, but I spoke to her in England maybe 8 weeks before she started working, but I didn't see her until maybe 3 weeks before. So I didn't have that long to prep with her, and in a way that worked well because I started preparing without her. And she kind of liked the idea that there was remnants of a character, not remnants, but there was a character taking form without her that she
Okay.
expected, and she liked that world is somewhat developed, and she collaborated with me on discarding what was not in the right direction for her and keep what was.
Rear differential on the teenager brings it to wrap around the backside ashtray. Good anti-smoking in. The car crashes and burns with everyone trapped inside. Now, should we initiate the recall?
Father wasn't in you. Did you see that fat burn? See?
Very modern. Take the number of vehicles in the field, A, multiply it by the probable rate of failure, B, then multiply the result by the average out-of-court settlement, C. A times B times C equals X. If X is less than the cost of recall, we don't do it.
David's very accurate about his intentions, both storyboarding but also just on a scale, on an early scale. We would go out, just 3 or 4 of us in the firm for preliminary scouts, and David would be very clear about the angle of the lens.
How's that my void already? I didn't
What
use
you have
that.
to do in the
What?
makes it so much easier to do the job. I mean, the storyboards, I think, probably all the time you can follow them. The frames would be really accurate.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic that someone has Siri to commit to that far ahead of it. It makes it so much easier for us, to design lighting setups and to design sets. I mean, you don't have to cover yourself endlessly because you know that you're not going to vary very much from the storyboard. Occasionally, something that's better, of course, would change, but more or less we stuck to the original idea.
We did not only conventional storyboards, we also David used a process called Previous, which is kind of a 3D storyboard, animated storyboard, where you build a model of a set, and particularly for the visual effects shots, in the computer. And then David would spend time with the computer model and place the camera, work out the camera move, sight on the lens. And there are several times where we had information maybe 4 months ahead of time. There was absolutely we'd make decisions on the sites. In one instance, down to the half inch, with a motion control shot that never changed. The plane crash was planned to a tiny degree, the most minute detail.
Make in the so.
It's gonna be like this. What I'm gonna do.
This is how I met Tyler Durden.
Bunch of afterlife shit again.
Gasoline first when it's juice concentrated on make people.
That's
true. That's true. One can make all kinds of explosives using some knives. Really? From some fun.
Tell you by far the most interesting single story I've ever met. Honestly, everything.
After I read the script, I knew that Tyler Durden was going to be pretty out there, word-wise, to go with how out there he was as a character. And I asked David, who doesn't like Tyler very much, how far I could go with Brad's character. And he said, you can't go too far with Tyler Durden. And I mean, I was amazed that he let me do a lot of the stuff that I did, compared to we worked together on the game and on 7. And, you know, the palette's pretty restricted and, you know, in terms of a lot of color. And
What?
surprised that
Give me the ball.
David allowed all those reds and oranges and vibrant colors that Brad did.
He's primarily the only person who wears one.
Yeah. When you walk into the wardrobe trailer and look at Brad's clothes were directly across, hanging directly across from Edward's. And I mean, Tyler's side, Brad's side was like vibrant, and Edward's side was just grays and beiges and so boring. I mean, it was hysterical. I mean, you couldn't believe those two characters were in the same movie.
That right there defines the two personalities and the two characters perfectly.
Yeah.
But in the 6 weeks that I had to prep, you know, amongst other things, I had the rare opportunity of testing every light source that we used in the picture, as well as, you know, testing the clothing that Michael was dressing them in and some of the makeup, you know, different processes that we use and some of the prosthetics that we use. Since there's quite a bit of fight prosthetics, and to find out what really looked realistic and how we could actually bring out the prosthetics and make them look like real wounds as opposed to prosthetics. And so then white angle of light actually enhanced all those situations.
Take forever.
I tested everything from the copy machine light sources to the headlights in cars. And it's a rare opportunity to get those kind of, you get to evaluate those choices that far ahead of time. Normally it's something you just have to scramble for on the set. You have experience to make your decisions, but 2 weeks of screen shooting tests, filming tests, lighting tests were really this picture helped me.
Wardrobe tests help I get everyone else's input and weed things out earlier on. I pretty much know how things are going to photograph and having done what I do for such a long time. And I've already had fittings with the actors, but I think it gives, DP, I mean, an idea of the kind of things that he's been dealing with. But also, I think, director can kind of,
3,
uh,
6.
see if I've gone too far, with Tyler's character. In fact, once I presented something to David, and he said, "This time you have gone too far."
What was that?
It was a complete outfit in various shades of red on red on red on red on red, and I don't know, Brad and I loved it, but I think we did go over the top a little bit. We were just testing David. A lot of Brad's clothes looked like they were just picked up in a thrift shop, and that's the look we were going for. But unfortunately, it wasn't that easy. Since we needed so many multiples, various reasons, stuntmen and brothers and for the fights and so I think we needed an interest to look at stores and thrift shops.
What did he do? Holy moly.
We met on the airplane. We had the same suitcase. The clever guy. I called a second ago to give us my answer.
These scenes, especially in David's movies, the approach to these sequences are so sophisticated that you don't really realize how many layers of people or action it takes to finish the sequence. For example, the car crash was done probably over 9 days throughout the course of the movie, in about 6 different places to arrive at that one sequence. And so we may have 5 different people wearing them for various reasons.
The red leather jacket that Brad's wearing, I think we had about 6 of them. And, it looks like a great find in the thrift shop, but the leather had to be dyed to get that old kind of late 60s, early 70s color and texture of the leather and the top stitching. And there's a lot of detail that went into making it look like something, that I couldn't possibly find in the store today in that quantity.
Did he keep any of the leather jackets?
He wants one. I think the wardrobe is actually still on hold, but I have to remember to get him one. He did get one of his black jackets from Seven.
Oh no.
Logan, Viagra, Lesser, Martha Stewart. Fuck Martha Stewart. Martha's policy and gas on the Titanic. It's all going down, man. Fuck off. Sofa units and slim strike that. I say stop being perfect. I say let's evolve. The chips fall within me. Doesn't mean I could be wrong. And it's a terrible tragedy. Just stop. Tragedy, good news and love a versatile solution to modern living. Accurate. My insurance is calling. Well, things you own end up owning you. Well, the other side that kind of came up and
Never seen that card.
Penis shot, or the dirt that you see at the end of the movie. So at the very end of the movie, we had to work something in there to show that Brad's film goes to the machine, basically. And so we spliced that one in there. What was actually kind of funny about that one was that we never know where this came from, because Peter Mavromanis went out and found us some pornography. I guess he has his sources these days, because on the game he had to find some pornography. He came back with a 70mm frame of a guy with not quite a hard on. Couldn't really have a hard on in an American movie. And we kept bugging him about where it came from and where did they screen 70mm pornography. Anyway. So we got one frame of that, which we had to sort of crop and fit and put it in there, and we had to make it anamorphic and stretch it back out.
That's playing all kinds of shit
We
you've
had
never seen.
one of the editors actually make up a really dirty splice so we could see what the dirty splice would look like, so we could match it on this frame. I think it's in there. like 15 frames or something. It was like 6, but that was like the end of the single frame of those.
Restless for sleeping he were. He had one part-time job as a projection. The movie doesn't come all on one big reel. It comes on a few. So someone has to be there to switch the projectors at the exact moment the one reel ends and next.
I don't know if it actually ever happened, but we had this whole, we were convinced basically that some projectionist someplace would cross the movie over right there. He'd see the first one come up, go shock, cross the movie over and we'd wipe out the end of reel 2. But anyway.
The interior of the theater that Tyler
Aye, again.
uses his pornography into children's films was the fantastically old Art Deco theater downtown Los Angeles. It's being renovated right now. Probably done now. Which you don't actually get to appreciate.
Good date.
In the fight club, however, we used, my character's name is Claudia Miranda, and he created this light source called a Decasort. And it's in March 16s, all in rows of pods. And you can put them on a dimmer board, computerized dimmer board, and actually have them pulsating slightly that created the projector glimmer that you saw back off the people's faces. And so that's what we used with a few different colorations on it so you can feel the difference of light quality. It's pretty straightforward. And then I believe we used a projector beam. We used a xenon in the back actually, and we created our own projector feeling to it. So when you shot backwards and saw the backlight of the beam coming through there and whatnot, you had that, right at the entrance to the theater as opposed to the production booth where it would be coming from. It was too high and wouldn't hit the head. So it was another cheat.
We had some graduating tables at the banquet room hotel, and he's wearing a walking. It really cracks me up. So Tyler Durden.
This is crazy. You want me to hit you? That's right. Like in the face? Surprising. This is so fucking stupid.
There's something about the sound that they chose to use for the thump of the first hit when Edward hits Brad that just cracks me up every time. It's such a pathetic attempt at a fight, and then the sound itself is just this dead thump.
Come on. Slow.
Blues Bar is the exterior of Blues Tavern was down in Long Beach, and the idea behind shooting it there was to get this industrial isolated background with the harbor lights in the background. And in some of the wire shots, you can see that, especially the first time you see Baker Street House. You see all the factory lights in the background. Which once again, shooting the spherical 35, I don't believe that we could have picked up quite the intensity of those lights or the depth that we used to anamorph the glass. Yeah, I think that every picture would want to tell you what it wants to be in this particular one. Because of the style that we chose to photograph it, and definitely was an asset to us to use spherical glass.
Come on!
To have the luxury of being able to shoot, 500 or 800 ASA stocks at 1
Hold it.
or 2 stocks.
Come on!
We actually did
Come on!
the 800 ASA. We installed the 5279 for all the night exteriors and the night interiors, and
Yeah, good boy.
248 for all the day exteriors.
Come here.
The detail in the picture is so amazing. I mean, even the wooden stairway is more worn in the center. Just the little details that a lot of the film didn't even pick up. It was amazing. We went down to Long Beach and there was this house that just wasn't there before, and they just built the exterior of the house and matched the interior so beautifully. We scouted the house several times as it was growing to its completion, and the story from some of the contractors that had been there, the construction guys that have been there for most of the time. So
the local neighborhood, but apparently there's a planned freeway that goes right through the lot that we built the house in. I guess that's why we were able to use the lot. And as they saw this house going up, they kept coming by going, you guys know they're gonna build a freeway here, right? No, we have no idea.
Every time it rained, we had to kill the power. By the end of the first month, I didn't miss TV. I didn't even run the warm, still refrigerator.
A lot of the night exteriors, especially around the Paper Street house and Lou's Tavern exteriors at night, we used these 8K tungsten helium balloons that have their own light source inside, and you fill them with the helium. They blow up to probably a good 10-foot diameter, and then you can hoist them up in the middle of the sequence, in the middle of your shot. And the taglines are all blackened out, and they tend to disappear, and it creates a really wonderful moonlit ambience to a large area. It's rather, at that point, there wasn't anything to cut that source with, and now since then you can hang different material on the backs to make the light more directional. But it was just a large, broad source, and kind of went everywhere. So it just gave you a good base, and then you put your keys in your backlight from that. But it helped enormously to light large areas. And I don't, we would have had, I ended up coming in various sizes, but had we not had our spherical ones, we would have had a much larger light source than that. And it just worked out now that you could have a 500 ASA with the balloon about 30 feet in the air. You have a nice 1.4, 1.5, and you're shooting at 2.3, so you have a great two-stop under ambience to create a large area.
What did you
get
do?
some really nice depth in the ground and size of buildings and whatnot. And then, unfortunately for me, because at that time we weren't able to cut the back of the light off, it lights also buildings, front lights buildings that you may not want lit, but because of the way that Alex had aged the buildings down, usually they were decrepit and dark and anyways, and it just helped. I didn't have to worry about cutting it, If anything, the spill helped, otherwise the buildings would have disappeared. Plus the creative use of a standby painter, which we had a great standby painter by the name of Billy White on this picture, and anytime, when we initially lit Lou's Tavern and we used the ball for the wider shots to give an ambience to the parking lots, it did in fact light the roof of the building way too much, and so he just hops up with a spray gun and down, 2 notches, the building disappears. I had about 6 weeks to prep, which about half the time is spent visiting the locations and going over to the sets and talking with Alex about plans for the Paper Street house and what the approach was going to be to practical light switches and the light on the ceilings, whether they would be fixed or not fixed. And one of the interesting things about the Paper Street house is that we decided to opt for a real 2-story house as opposed to splitting the 2 levels on a soundstage and having false ceilings. My attitude was about that, and certainly something I watched my father do so well, is if you're put into a realistic situation without the comfort of taking away a ceiling and putting light sources in that don't really exist, then you creatively have to come to terms with the space that you have, and it becomes a much more natural feeling of where, you can't cheat as much, and I didn't want to have the luxury of being able to cheat. So unfortunately, it worked out for David as well, and Alex, because it saved a lot of space on the stage, rather than having 2 houses, 2 floor plans, we put them on top of each other. And it forces you to be more honest with your life, for better or worse. The Long Beach set was just a facade of a house, but the actual house that we built on stage at Fox was 2 stories. And so we were forced to deal with those dilemmas afterward, which I feel like, if you watch the picture, you don't disbelieve any of the motivation from any of the life sources or the directions that we're coming from. And so that was our goal.
this guy.
Down in the basement of Lou's Tavern where the Fight Club initiates. It was interesting because we had strategically placed a few light sources around the room so that it could basically have a pseudo boxing ring with a lot of fall off in the background, not much depth. And we had one work light, like a metal domed standard household clip-on work light that you'd see in a lot of places. And it turned out it was essentially a beautiful light source and made such sense that they had it in this place that we stole a bunch of them from the kitchen of the Paper Street house that was next door and ended up using them throughout the whole movie. I mean, nicknamed them Budget Busters since they were only $3 a piece. And so basically all of Lou's Tower and Lou's basement where the fighting takes place, minus this one fluorescent that we have tagged up, are all lit by these little Budget Busters.
I couldn't remember whether you were painted blue ink or black. But Ricky was a god for 10 minutes in the energy at a local food court. Sometimes all you can hear are flat, hard packing sounds over the yellow. Or wet choke when someone caught their breath with spray. You weren't alive anywhere like you were there. The Fight Club only exists in the hours between when the Fight Club starts and when the Fight Club ends. Even if I could tell someone they had a good fight, I wouldn't be talking to the same man. Who you are in the Fight Club is not who you are in the rest of the world. The guy came to Fight Club for the first time, his ass was a wad of cookie dough. After a few weeks,
This is the first picture that I photographed from head to toe as the DP. I thought I had worked on both 7 and the game as the second unit DP and had done some operating on the first unit of 7. And shot quite a bit of second unit insert work on the game and assumed that my meeting with David was regarding shooting second unit for Fight Club, so I was kind of taken back when he asked me to shoot the picture for him.
Calvin Klein and Tom Duffy who said they should.
Thank
You know what that
you.
looks like?
Self-improvement, masturbation, self-destruction.
Harder.
I think that the computer can really
Yeah.
do a lot of stuff. I think every year as software gets better, as the body of technical knowledge gets better, there will be more and more breakthroughs and more and more experiments, more and more things tried. There is a danger with the computer animation, the computer digital effects, is that you see too much oftentimes. And there's a lot that goes wrong with computers. There's a lot that looks wrong. There's a lot of artifacts and just strange things in there. And people don't always know how to correct for those. I certainly don't know everything about correcting for digital artifacts and things. And honestly, you don't always have the time to go in and to make things look absolutely real. So you are dealing with approximations all the time. And those approximations are getting smaller and smaller as time goes on. However, the demands upon the artists are being made greater and greater all the time. And there's stuff that's being done now that could scarcely even be dreamed of 5 years ago. So it's kind of amazing to think what might happen 5 or 10 years down the line. I think that there's still many stages of revolution and evolution to come. And imagine computers that, for example, make it 10,000 times faster and more powerful than the ones that we're using now. How is that going to change things?
Oh, God.
Reach, skin guys fall to the floor. Hey, move this.
It's a perfect example of a phone conversation between Marla and Jack when she's laying on the bed there, and she does have a skin irritation going on, and we didn't run from it. We went with her. We thought it fit her character, and she certainly wanted to go as opposite her Victorian stereotype as she could.
Although she's all dressed up, seemingly so, wearing a sequin dress, which looks like it maybe came from the 60s. The fabric, of course, when we made it was perfect, and so what I did was shaved the sequins off from different areas, so it looked really tattered, and also it was kind of sexy showing parts of the body. This was unlined.
The love-making sequences in this movie, love-making sequence in this movie is such an interesting choice and style that shows all the passion without showing all the detail of actually.
Gonna make it, no fucking way.
That was just, it's really started early in prep, and literally almost the last scene to be expected was for all the 6 sequences. And in the end, we had to deliver the whole thing all as one continuous piece, which caused another problem. It was all the usual boring CG things, because once you decided that, well, you're going to make everything fit together in one piece, then David could take the transitions between the two that hadn't been thought of before. It got very intricate. It's a little disappointing when you actually see it on the screen, it goes by and like nothing flat. And it was actually supposed to be short. It was supposed to be the sort of bullet for every cut. I think there's 6 cuts.
No.
Every cut was 3 seconds long, and they ended up as long as like 7 or 8 seconds. But now you can't tell they're moving either, because 3 seconds of motion spread out over 8 seconds starts to look kind of like you're not moving. So we added ashtrays floating through the air so you could see things falling, things like that. So anyway, it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of hair pulling on my part, but hopefully the result's really beautiful. I don't know exactly how well it integrates into the rest of the movie, but it's a standout on its own. And I suppose it's the only time we see sex in the movie, so it can be a little different than everything else. That's part of the rule of working with David in visual effects, is that they have to look like they're part of the movie. He has a lot of experience. He used to work at Ireland and all that. He knows about effects that go out in second units and come back looking great and having nothing to do with the movie. So that's like number one, is to try to make sure that it fits well, that it looks like everything else. And I tend to get sort of dragged into all sorts of other technical things. There's this sort of weird crossover between me and post, where Peter Mavromatis is post supervisor. Is very involved in stuff that usually post supervisors are not, and I'm very involved in stuff that usually post supervisors are involved in, and we kind of mesh because David wants it all to fit. So it's a tight fit kind of.
We matched Downtown Hotel with, in fact, we went and found a bunch of downtown hotels that we liked to look at, and then we found a lobby that we liked. And then we took paint into the real location to match some of the other places we liked, and then took the combined look at that onto stage. So the corridor right by her room is stage, and everything is location on stage. So we built this room on stage, based it on sort of the worst of downtown monthly rental hotels that we found, and then took the look of what we liked of those and added paint in the location that we found. So the lobby and the stairways was a hotel on 8th Street downtown, but we added the shine in the corridor and floor, pulled up carpet.
8th Street, wasn't it the night that somebody threw a bottle out of a window at Jeff?
And hit you on the head, that was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the exterior of that night of that hotel, Marla's Hotel, one evening in the middle of the night, as we were sitting down there, apparently we alienated one of the residents. And he lobbed a 40-ounce beer bottle out the window and just happened to clock me on the head. I was standing next to the camera, and
good aim.
Very good. Thank you. Did you see my shirt afterwards? Would appreciate it.
Yeah.
Wonderful pattern all over it. Yeah, I didn't get to finish that night. I spent it in the hospital, but it all worked out.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah. So we all experienced a little bit of our own fight club. I have a scar to show for it. We had our own set officers on the set, of course, who went up and apprehended the guy that actually threw the ball, but the local police that showed up, as I was covered with beer and I'm sitting there with a bandage, a pack on my head waiting for an ambulance to show up. First question out of his mouth is, have you been drinking? Yeah, I wanted to loop at him at that point.
Me, what goes on in this house to her or to anybody. We're done.
Tyler's lavender bathrobe with the coffee cups was a huge hit. In fact, I got a call from Edward this past November asking if I could have another one made up for his brother for a Christmas gift. I think it belonged to the original one. We had more coffee, but the original one came from Brad's housekeeper.
I could have moved to another room on the third floor when I might not have heard them. But I didn't.
This place was actually built in a tank.
This whole sequence, the fact that the Paper Street house had a faulty electrical system and
Man.
the occupants had no way to turn off the fuse box when it rained, created an interesting scenario since when you switch off the power, what do you have left, right? Seeming to be applied interesting, uses of flashlights, candles, and then some moonlight.
Yeah, it's a good going out from the outside.
Exactly.
Caps built into the way, because equally the house was supposed to be boarded up and totally abandoned, so no light was supposed to get in, because they were not supposedly not letting anyone on the street under there, so you couldn't really show a lot of light coming in from the outside.
I emailed them to everyone.
Take your blood.
So, but yeah,
You can't smoke in here. Take the rest of the day off, come back Monday with some clean clothes. Get yourself together.
That's
I got
okay.
right in everyone's hostile little face. Yes, these are bruises from fighting. Yes, I'm comfortable with that. I am enlightened. Give up.
We talked earlier, Alex, about the exterior of the Paper Street house and the enormous undertaking it was to build that facade and how you had some of the local characters actually telling you about the freeway that was going in and whatnot.
Yeah, it was funny because it went up, obviously sort of in backwards in time, because it went up brand new and people started coming up and saying, you really shouldn't be building a house in this neighborhood because they're about to take this area out for the Port of LA. So we said, it's okay, I think it'll be right. And then as it got older, people started coming by going, I've lived here 25 years, I had no idea this house was here. Right. We had bus tours going by then. But there was always somebody every day who just came and told you innocent, just said no.
I think it settled down after the UFO sighting, the moon balls that we had lighting the area.
We had a local San Pedro historian who wanted us to give a talk to his historical society about the Victorian house. We built the porch and the one wall of the kitchen was built on location, and we brought the entire piece back to stay so that you could get those shots of the garden and match, and then bring people from outside the front porch.
For example, the 2 times that Marla leaves the house, she walks through the yard, or when some of the space monkeys are gardening.
I have access to what we have. Reject the basic assumption of civilization, especially the importance of material possession.
Yes, I know it's serious. Yes, it's very serious. Look, nobody takes this more seriously than me. That condo was my life, okay? I loved every stick of furniture in that place. That was not just a bunch of stuff that got destroyed. It was me. I'd like to thank the Academy.
You fucking get it. I'm gonna blow it all up. That's what we want to do. What are you doing there?
It's been on the paper for that, 16? No.
I may need to talk to you a little further, so how about you just let me know if you don't want to chat?
Except for their pumping, Tyler and Marlo were never in the same room. My parents pulled this exact same act for years.
You know, I thought a bridesmaid's dress would be the easiest thing to find because, I mean, they're in all the thrift shops, but to find one that felt right and had the qualities that were in dialogue was impossible. And something that seemed like Marla would pick out for herself and related to her other clothing. They were all too cheap looking or not enough detail, and so we ended up having to make this one and burn cigarette holes in it and drag it through the mud and made it look like it's what she was talking about.
So special. It's on the side of the road.
4, 8, 12. Gamble it? Keep it bored.
Well, that suits you.
You can catch Brad's bunny rabbit slippers going up the stairs there. Another thing about Brad's character, his pants were always hanging and as low as possible on his waist. This was a characteristic
Alright, we're done.
You know, was conscious, and he always has a little bit of fun with that. If you see him from the back.
We're done, bitch. Oh, fuck. I'll be right back.
Tyler's idea
I'll be right back.
Complete camouflage outfit. In fact, Brad was outside and was even trying to hide among trees, thinking that since he was wearing a leaf pattern, that you know it was in essence natural camouflage.
Make soap. Really? To make soap, first we render fat.
Excited?
This whole contest.
Just stay here.
Listen, I'm doing so. Come from humans. Wait. Listen to me.
The reason for the camouflage was Tyler's little caper here. He didn't even notice. He's wearing orange.
The prop master Bucky Moore brought in some real liposuction to just to show David what it really looked like.
That was an example of why we need multiples for clothing.
It ended up being like a combination of chicken broth and parts and different things.
Yeah. Actually, I don't remember what he filmed.
Yeah. And concoction.
Really disgusting. Versatile hardness, you skim off layer of glycerin. You add nitric acid, you add nitroglycerin. And then add sodium nitrate, that's sawdust. You add dynamite. Yeah, with enough soap, we can blow up just about anything.
Tyler was full of useful information.
Now, ancient peoples found that clothes got thin when they washed them at a certain point in the river. You won.
We kind of chose a Victorian house because, I think mainly because every room had to have at least 3 entrances and exits for Marla and Brad to do their dance, where neither one of them was in the same room at the same time, or rather Brad and Ned, I guess. And as well that it was a kind of very clean 100-year span. So this house kind of represented history of 20th century and what it had gone through, and became, I guess, sort of a symbol for the Tyler character's Luddite principles. And we imagined that it was something built by Captain Industry as a very rich, in a rich neighborhood, and that the industry that made him rich got closer and closer, encroached on the buildings, so that gradually the buildings began to be deserted. So his grandson had to sublet the house in the 70s. So the house, we actually sort of cut the house in half and worked out which rooms he could have sublet. And there's an additional kitchen built, an additional bathroom, a back stairs that was built in the 70s. And then we, there's the plush carpet and the mylar wallpaper, and half the house is totally sort of refurbished in the 70s. And then that plan didn't work, and he still couldn't afford to keep the house, so he let it go, and then it was squatted, and there's sort of a layer of graffiti and squatting of pre-Tyler Day. And then that security was put on it, and the fence was put around it. And that finally Tyler got through the fence, broke into the house, and squatted it again. But it has these many layers built into it. We've got burn marks on the walls where previous squatters had lit fires, and of course all this time it's rotting, so the rain's pouring through and the wallpaper's rotting away.
Congratulations. One step closer to you.
Tyler sold his soap to DuPont.
This is Tyler's idea of business attire. He goes to Barney's to sell them the soap which is made.
He was wearing his yellow tie. I didn't even wear a tie to work anymore.
The first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club.
But half asleep again. I must have left the original in the copy machine.
The second rule of Fight Club is yours. Continue. Make a managerial decision. You find this open treatment.
This whole corporate America with the most bland possible colours and brands. Almost all the Wilshire Boulevard, we're going to cut most of the corporate.
Where, homie?
Armalite AR-10 carbine gas powered cylinder. Pumping round after round with colleagues and children.
Come here.
Might be something you've done for years.
This one's connected.
Yeah.
We did one fantastic.
Yeah.
It was a location.
In one sentence, you see the trees.
You should bring me every day to trash and I can take that. You guys want really? My tits gonna run off. You excuse me,
Where you going? Can't run away. Oh, yeah. God.
I'm talking anything Chinese there's no there. Go to the hospital. Or if you're lying by a doctor. I don't know about this world. Please. She didn't clock time and I'm neutral and book. That's nice. Take the food, Mrs. Hannibal, Mrs. Rain. Where are they exactly?
Tragically, they're dead. I'm alive and I'm in trouble.
This is the 8th Street Hotel.
It's pretty good, especially at nighttime.
Where are you going? Where are you going? Okay?
Set with the shirts and she looked down, she'd stepped on
All right.
the rat's head.
Choke on a hairball?
It doesn't anywhere in America, and it has so much gritty detail down in it because so many of the buildings are vacant and have been so for so long. There's such a level of dilapidation, and that it's beautiful to shoot on. I mean, it's uncomfortable, but it's beautiful.
The architecture is one of them downtown, because it's actually saturated. There's nowhere else in America that I've seen has such a
Nope.
low respect for
Stay.
architecture for
What are you
period.
doing?
So you just get the most ugly buildings thrown out next to the most beautiful. And it also, downtown's interesting because it really only exists at ground level in the center, like in these areas. Most of the buildings are dead shells on main streets in downtown from ground floor up. People never kind of look up, and that's where all the beautiful architecture is. And we spend months going in and out of these hotels in the location scouts.
So many times I've been downtown working with David and I look across the street, I look up.
Who's your boy?
It was the location from Blade Runner many years before it was really. So I think there's a similar sensibility there.
And the second rule is, I'm not supposed to. And the third rule is, momentum. Like baseball. I thought it was similar to the Tuesdays and Thursdays. Congratulations.
Yeah, hey, the both of us, right? You've been to state. Well, yeah, actually,
There are all kinds of things. Supposedly, he was born in an institution. He sleeps only 1 hour a night. He's a great man. Do you know about Tyler?
Good ball, huh? Hey, good ball.
And we use pretty practical rope strings or construction lights in a row. They just happen to be there on scout day. They set up them. And we were like,
Hey, come here.
Lou. Come on, man.
You like this place?
Michael worked on the playroom.
With your dad.
One down, we were talking about earlier.
That was an incredible experience. You know, I was very young and, you know, just working with, you know, a visionary. Like Ridley was a pretty amazing education at that point in my career. It's hard to find futuristic clothes.
Nowadays, everything's auctioned off afterwards, right?
I heard this story that, now we're talking about Blade Runner, but they took all the clothes to England to do reshoots, and rather than store them or send them back, go through customs again, they just burned them all.
Experiment and introduce some more design skills and some of my ideas and imagination. I'm also kind of, I am not a real big fan of the philosophy that work should be design driven or story driven. I'm in sort of a minority group that believes that software drives the creative decisions. That software, by its existence, opens up new possibilities to experiment with. And so if I had to do it over again, I think I probably would study more programming when I was getting started. Because I'm doing more programming now, and I feel like a lot of the art is in the programmer's hands now, not entirely in the technicians or the artist's hands. And that's kind of a funny realization. And I've noticed other people like Con Pedersen, he will spend as much time reprogramming the computer or writing new software for it as he will trying to design something or developing a technique for it. He'll go under the hood and try to get the computer to do something that it hasn't done before, and then use that as a creative tool to design something that nobody's ever seen before. So I believe that you can work it both ways. The creative and design side can push the development of software, but I also think very strongly that the software developers and programmers can offer up tools to the designers that they never would have thought of before also.
No.
Security?
I hear Jack's smirking revenge.
What are you doing?
A lot of the corporate locations or sets that we found ourselves in, we did play that, that uncomfortable, unnatural light sources.
I love the color of the suit. A lot of the time we didn't have to change the colors in set, but in this case we put that green into this space because we were spending a lot of time just
For a lot of the corporate sequences, at least where Edward's office and his boss's office, and we used we put in regular chroma fluorescence, couldn't correct anything, let that cool light stay in there, and then made slight adjustments on the camera to get this kind of forced natural tonality to their skins and to the walls. Kind of presenting, this unfriendly work environment that he lives in. And that helps one way, visually at least, to transcend that.
I think to suggest that to really make that kind of work come from American works and try to really find the essence of that.
Yeah, and even intercut so closely together, it's such a contrast when you end up back in the Moose Tavern for the fight sequences, which are all lit by his fairly warm tungsten, small practical sources that are placed in the ceilings.
Holy shit.
In one way, it brings you back to this is their comfortable, roomish world, even though fighting takes place here, versus this sterile corporate world that he's trying to
Pause. Well, why?
push himself away from, distance himself from.
And something to do with history as well, I think, because you have this, like in the corporate world, nothing exists there that was built prior to 1980 kind of thing. But in the Fight Club and in the house and in the Marla's world, there's the historical areas, or where the warmth comes from. So the warmth of and the light and the color of the colors we were using kind of helps exaggerate that.
It's a forced industry versus this organic fight, which they're all brings them back to, what in Brad's theory brings them back to where we've gone so far away from anyways.
This guy.
Like, what about Delaware City? Yeah. The one in Ken's Road, too. Probably even found one up in Newcastle. Yeah, did you start that one? No, I thought you did.
I think for us, the interesting thing about the characters in this film is that they were kind of non-people, or they had no personal history. Very often when you're doing a film, you can track the history of a space that the person lives in because they've inhabited that space for years, or you know where they've come from.
Come on, my guy.
History, but
Take it
in
off.
this case, they're all ciphers, and so
Oh.
what we were able to do, and kind of needed to do, was build
Just give up.
the characters
Start.
making the narratives into characters that supported this, that told the story of those people. So Edward's environment has so much to do with what he owns and where he lives, and the IKEA world and the filing cabinets for widows and bachelors.
Jack, Edward, and his boss, I mean, they obviously live in the same world, and it's just so mundane and boring, and you understand the motivation for Edward to get out of it. And Tyler is so effervescent, so colorful, and you can understand the attraction. And also, how polar these two characters are from one another.
And I think collectively we all accomplish something in that every aspect of our contributions adds to the story without being without showboating or distracting from the story element itself. And photographically, that was one thing that I always admired about my father, for example, is that he never let ego get in the way. You're always enhancing the story, but within the context of what the story is about, and not something completely separate. And it's always been something that bugs me when you have this like pretty horrendous story and this beautiful Disney Saturday afternoon photography. It just doesn't make sense. And so I think
This
that
guy.
accomplished that.
Pardon, right there.
The difficult thing about Tyler's clothes being so flamboyant was, I'm so used to, trying to clothes remain in the background and just kind of, maybe aid the character, but also kind of remain in their place. And, some of these clothes are, a little bit more attention getting than I'm used to doing. That nervousness is, I'm always, when I'm too aware of the clothes the actors are wearing, I feel like I'm not doing my job, it's almost like upstaging. But Tyler was this character that needed, that kind of a presence, and so it was necessary for me to kind of stay on it and kind of push the character and push the colors and the humor of what he was wearing.
Well, the clothes so much tell the story of his character in that case. It's sort of like a standalone.
It helps define who he is.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Last week's New York Times had a whole article about Donatello Versace picking up on the Fight Club atmosphere and designing a whole fall collection for next year. Is fashioned after Fight Club and Tyler Durden.
Should have done that. What did I do that for? I always mess up. Should not have done that. Whatever.
Well, a lot of people have said to me, well,
Okay,
Brad looks so
fine.
great, but then again, Brad looks great in anything he wears, and must be easy to dress in. And I think it is probably very easy to dress Brad, but that wasn't what we did. I mean, he was great in everything, and so in a way, it was harder to kind of make choices that were right for the character and had nothing to do with what was right for Brad. But we tried to whittle away what actually looked cool or looked good, and kind of have things that were only about the character or made a statement about the character and the way he thought, such as the humor behind the camouflage and little things that are never really spoken about, but just something that we like, more gladly.
What are you getting at?
Hopefully you can get back to this over and over again because of the detail and the great thing working the way David works and with a story like this is that there is so much richness to the story that you can kind of run with it and enjoy yourself and build these layers of backstory and depth into every sort of environment and just you forget how many things you put into these things and you look at it again and you can keep getting more and more from the story out of what you look at if you're given an opportunity.
I think if an actor is aware of that kind of way that the character is built with clothing, whether or not the audience realizes that the actor somehow ideally become empowered in a way about the character, or where it might help them find the character or deal with issues that might not have presented themselves.
It strikes me in this film, actually, I was just thinking about what you're saying about the clothing seems to be more like, in this film, like for Marla and for Tyler, that they're actually carrying their homes with them on their backs, and like that they're because neither one of them has any effect on their environment at all. Like for us, Marla, in her hotel room, there's not a single object in the hotel room except the dildo, probably, that's, to do with her. And you imagine that her entire life could fit in a small suitcase and she could move at any moment. And Tyler makes no attempt to affect his environment really, except for the kitchen, I get the soap making process, but it's not to do with him feeling more comfortable with clothing. It seems like all of that, if in reality, all their energy would go into representing themselves through that and not through their environment, whereas maybe in a normal film that would be at least probably opposite, and or at least equally to do with their environment.
They're both squatters.
Totally, yeah. And Edward, it's such a non-style that he puts in that it doesn't have any effect anyway, even if he's making an effect. If he's trying to order something really different out of a catalogue, it's still always the same catalogue.
Brad wears about, I think, 3 or 4 different styles of sunglasses throughout the movie. Well, pretty outrageous. These are just rose-colored glasses.
This building opposite the lobby, the entrance hall is a trucker's company, a trucking company. And we had a run-in with them because their drivers would always park every night outside the house while we were building underneath gallon bottles of urine on the sidewalk for us to handle. It's just, when they've been driving all night, they just unloaded on the set. So you had to run. Exactly.
There's a scene where Charlie tells the space monkeys that once they're inaugurated into space monkeydom, they need to show up with certain items, and the idea being that these people are from all different walks of life, and so although he tells them all to bring black shirt and black pants, it would be maybe in one case black suit pants, in another case black jeans, and in another case black Versace pants, and same thing throughout. Shoes, boots, shirts. So this was supposed to be not just directed at one social group or economic group. This was lawyers and trash collectors and teachers and just everyone. To exemplify that.
At that point, did that end up being on stage? We built that to be shown on stage.
That was
Business location.
no, but that
Yeah, hang on with him in that window.
Oh,
was on location, I believe.
yes.
There was an elaborate foreground piece that we took to stage in order to
We also shot
Okay.
We spent a month trying to bleach this flag to be a kind of Jasper Johns white on white American flag. Never got it all the way there.
Nothing is on the scene right now. Hold on, please, Commissioner Jacobs has just arrived. Commissioner, could you please tell us what you think is happening here?
This is one of the most types of bands around the city. Around lots of folks.
It was 128 days since the original shooting together, or what we shot.
It's broken on about an hour ago.
138 days. 10 of those days were additional pickup shots and whatnot. Some 3 or 4 more clearance after we initially wrapped.
It was an interesting approach because David went into the shoot knowing that he wanted to shoot that long and planning on 10-hour day. I know that our directive was to save as much of our budget as we could, and but that basically, wherever possible, the budget went towards the shooting days rather than towards, say, the
Loading.
Have that mindset.
Yeah.
Did we shoot any 10-hour days?
We actually did, about half.
Yeah,
Yeah, we did.
surprisingly.
The idea behind that was, there were so many makeup changes. You know, initially there was 32 makeup changes between the two lead characters, Edward and Brad. And I think that probably grew this time around. And we had so many short sequences that took place in different locations. We lose so much time making the company move that if we kept it to 10-hour days and took that overtime and applied it to more days, that we'd have a much more logical schedule and actually have, some kind of normalcy to life.
Okay, poor choice.
Really, the way it worked for me is that we would,
Oh, shit.
and myself, AD, the actor, script supervisor.
Oh, shit. Oh, fuck.
Michael would get there before
Alright.
the cast got there, if we got there, and block out the sequence for that day and rehearse it. And then by the time the crew showed up, we do one last rehearsal, let everybody see what's going on, and they go off with hair and makeup and leave it light. And basically, we shoot for the next 8 hours.
That's around top tag, Bob.
Yeah, those are ice cold.
All right, cool.
You're gonna call it a rigorous investigation. You're gonna publicly state that there is no underground group. Or these guys are gonna take your balls. You're gonna say one to the New York Times, one to the other, and express release style. Look, the people you are after are the people you depend on. You cook your meals, you haul your trash, you connect your calls, you drive your ambulances. We guard you while you sleep. Do not fault us.
Okay.
No chance.
I am Jackson, playing stunts of rejection.
Ooh.
I felt like putting a bullet between the eyes of every pen that would screw to save its species. I wanted to open the dump valves on oil tankers and smother all those French beaches I've never seen. I wanted to breathe smoke.
Where'd you go to say?
I like just trying to forget.
Get into a fuck house. After you. Somebody might,
Alright, yeah, why wasn't I told about Project Mayhem?
First rule of Project Mayhem is you do not ask questions. What are you talking?
There's many layers to the car crash sequence and the driving sequences that took place. We initially started the first week of shooting, actually, before we even started shooting, we did 2-3 nights of plate work to create the background plates for the process stuff. And we went on an insert car and went down by the airport area and then down into the Long Beach area to get transition from the city to the desolate area where they actually have the impact. And shot off with a insert car with a West Cam on the back of the car with a Vista Vision camera to give us a very large format for our plate work to be projected later. After having done that, we
I like that word.
the plates to level we wanted, and then went to do the process stuff on stage, the driving footage in the car, tied into drive-by shots that we had done out on the locations and the near misses and whatnot. Actually, I'm pretty happy with the way the process stuff turned out. We had some interactive lights going on, we had rain that helped use the translate imagery, the rear screen imagery, so they're all blended in a lot better. And segued into the actual impact of the car itself, which we ended up doing, I think, 3 different nights. We shot originally at the beginning of the picture in that first week out in the location. Where was that? San Fernando Valley. And did 2 cars that night, which was always 4 because of the impact. Then a week or 2 later, we're in Long Beach and shot really tight stuff with impacts of the cars, bumpers, and overhead shots of the impact. And then the last week of the picture, we went back out and shot additional footage of the cars going off to get an array of tumbling shots and to get a different landing for the vehicle because David was never really satisfied with the way it landed in the first 2. And then Alex had built the side of the wash set on stage where we had the cliff artifacts. Man had actually rigged it so it would slide the last 2 feet or so.
Yeah, last few feet in the actual landing was on stage.
Of the hill shot, and so you could actually, the car landed and Brad and Edward and the Space Monkeys had climbed out of the vehicle. And we made a half car that we shot the coverage of them dialogue right before the impact and some driving footage. And then we did I guess like a washing machine car where we had cut the back and the front off the car and put it on a spindle so that we could rotate it and mounted a camera to the vehicle itself and then rotated them and the camera. And that's how you get the great tumbling as we were crashing down the side. So there was a lot of layers to it.
This must have been when all those people felt like before I found them statistics in my reports.
Your life experience.
The world has to stop me with the unchained force. Beware of the close that blast.
Why would you do that? Yeah,
The
why?
cannabis that cuts you down and wraps shears down. When you look down and see tiny things hiding, landscapes of Venice and to cope with sweet land and simple hide.
It's gonna be.
You better check.
And then Tyler was gone. Was I asleep? 10 slept. The house had become a living thing. Went inside from so many people sweating and breathing. So many people moving in the house here. Planet tired. I had to put the walls, trapped inside this clockwork with space monkeys. Cooking, working, sleeping in teams.
We spend a lot of time looking for a soap. Somebody who can make the soap for us and also teach Bradley the process of soap making. We found this lady who sold soap in the farmer's market who came and gave a teaching course of how to turn the liposuction into how to render the fat. And the colour of the soap was supposed to reflect the colour of the liposuction we saw earlier.
I am John's broken heart. What comes next in Project Mayhem? Only Tyler knows. The second rule is you do not ask questions.
Get the fuck away from me!
Throughout the movie, Helen wears this makeup, Julie Pierce, the makeup artist on Film Found, and gives her skin this incredible opalescent quality, which, I don't know, it almost seems like
Hey,
painful, but it almost seems like she's
what's up?
or something. It's almost like
What's up, man?
state. She appears very dressed in.
Oh my. Hey, I'm just going live for practice.
Operation One Take Over Film.
Operation One Take Over.
A lot of people thought that looked like the Geffen logo rolling down.
I know, I'm surprised we got away with that. This was a fiberglass ball that basically floated and had to appear to be a 300-ton ball for us.
That's so kind.
And taglines, guys guiding it, down the fall.
We've got to be taken out. And it basically did hit the water and float. It was kind of a problem to And then we built a Starbucks-like coffee bar to smash into.
There were several of the balls, there's 2 of them at least, right?
3, yeah.
Was I eating breakfast after this?
So they were fairly
One more
difficult.
game.
They went into the glass, they got pretty scratched up.
Thanks for stopping in, bro. My internet friend from Norway. Internet friends. They're fun.
This is a man who has a name. It's Robert Paulson. Okay? Robert Paulson. He's a man who's dead now because of us. All right? Do you understand that?
I understand. And dead. A member of Project Mayhem has a name.
I do think that you'd be a fool not to acknowledge the technology and know that ultimately it's going to be digital. On one standpoint, and from one point of view, I think that it's fantastic that you can walk into any theater in any part of the country and have a digital image that's identical to the other. And for a cameraman, that's one of the tragic things that happens. I mean, maybe you go from 3 theaters on the same block and you're watching your movie and look 3 three different ways. And so I think digitally, there's so much more control. You'll be able to time your victory digitally, and they won't have to make 1,000 prints, they won't have to farm it in Canada or somewhere else, where it's all going to be inconsistent, every roll changes colors, and you're constantly making roll changes is what I'm finding. And I think it's fantastic, but at the same time, I haven't yet seen digital that gives you the same feeling of film that ultimately is coming. And so I would especially go with that. I think it's wonderful.
It may never be the same as film, it's going to be.
Right.
As you say, I think it's always.
Then along with it, you need to learn that there's certain advantages to it, and you need to learn the technology that goes with it, and you just run with it. I mean, as it is now, when you do a commercial or music video, everything is just transferred. You can no longer self-transferred anyway, straight out to negative. And so there's conscious choices that you make while you're shooting to leave things in shots, to light with this color light, to do this and that, knowing that you're going to do something different when you do the transfer. So certainly it's going to make, in a lot of aspects, it's going to make life easier. I'm hoping to do enough pictures and make enough money so that when it replaces me, that I'll be all right. When it's all done in the switcher and we don't need anybody up there. I mean, as it gets more and more digital, I'm sure there'll be more and more motorized cameras, and I know that David in the perfect world would love nothing more than every shot to be motion control, so.
Still need somebody to program. You'll become,
Just be a programmer.
You're not gonna kill it?
In fact, I was at the film festival in Venice, Andrew thought it would make better use of his time instead of attending the film festival to go out every day with a digital camera and just shoot Venice to that long effort saying so we could do a movie set there.
Everywhere I went, I felt I'd already been there. It was like following an invisible man. The smell of dry blood, dirty bare footprints circling each other, that aroma of old sweat like fried chicken, the feel of the floor still warm from the fight the night before. I was always just one step behind Tyler.
Welcome back, Sean. How have you been?
Do you know me?
Is this a test show?
No, this is not a test.
You were in here last Thursday.
Thursday?
One of the things I love about shooting in LA is you can still find locations that people have never used before that still look like anywhere else in the States. Like, doing it called over 7, just making it look like anywhere, not like LA. I think it works again here.
It's very quick things that will tell you where you are.
Yeah.
Position. Have we ever done it? Have we ever had sex?
That's a stupid question.
Stupid because the answer is yes or because the answer is no?
It's a trick. You want to know if I think we're just having sex or making love.
What Helen's wearing here is actually a girdle. And the straps are actually the garter belts. You can see a little the hook that fastens onto the stockings. And I just inverted it and had her kind of squeeze into it. It just seemed like something more I would do.
I'm coming over.
No, wait, hold on, not yet. You broke your promise. You fucking talked to her about it. What the fuck is going on here? I asked you for one thing.
This was just something really off the wall. Tyler wearing politically correct faux fur coat.
Definitely wear something like anybody else could.
Mm-hmm.
Why do people think that I'm you? I think you know. No, I
We used the same set for both hotel rooms. It's kind of almost to make the point. And we used the
Like
same
that.
fabrics and wallpaper in the airplanes as we did in the offices. So that, and in his apartment, we tried as much as possible to use the same textures through all the corporate work. So there really was no difference if you were sitting on an airplane or sitting at home or sitting in the hotel. It was all one big McDonald's world.
You're looking for a way to change your life. You cannot do this on your own. All the ways in which you could be. That's me. You look like you want to look like you want to fuck. I am smart, capable, and most importantly, I'm free in all the ways you went out.
Tyler's not here. I look away.
What's possible? This is crazy. People do it every day. They talk to themselves, they see themselves, as they would like to be. Then we encourage you to just run with it. I naturally used to listen to this. Sometimes you stay here.
We should do this again sometime.
Other times you imagine yourself watching me.
This is your first night at Fight Club?
We're watching research sequences that take place to tell the story. For the little area shot, we had to get a crane to the top of this building, and then we rebuild the crane in order to get it up there. And we built our own elevator was working, so it was kind of
There was no parapet on the building, so
right.
it was incredibly, felt very dangerous to scout it and to have a
Oh, shit.
Right.
On that.
And
Really?
out and fellas were out.
Poor choice.
Actually, everyone looking at the sides.
Poor, my friend.
Safeties, and yeah, you did have a feeling of nakedness up there because there was no walls, there was no any kind of railings, no wind would pick up and stuff, and you kind of felt yourself gravitating towards the edges. No, I have one comment. I'll set the record straight for one thing here. The sequence where Edward actually comes to terms with Brad in his hotel room. In the traditional sense of photography, and for those that are like super critical, it's always like a sin to have a double shadow, to have two shadows of somebody. And the scene always bothered me because it does have two shadows, but they're justified shadows. And so I'm setting the record straight now. If he's sitting next to a practical light source that's casting one shadow, and he has a window that's dust that's casting the other, it's justified that there's two shadows. That's been something that's bothered me from day one.
So Jeff, you fucked up just crazy.
All right, well, no, it's so justified. It makes sense.
Deja vu.
This too was a very fast sequence to sell the idea that the Space Monkeys had been making bombs in the basement. We did a lot of research. We probably all marked men on the internet the amount of anarchist sites that we visited to get the background of how to make bombs and what the real equipment would be.
Yeah. Can I help you? Yeah.
With all of David's movies, there's so much information loaded
Ow.
into each sequence that, even having been part of every shot of the movie, you go back and you watch it a second and third time, you see things that you appreciate things differently, or you see things that you didn't realize how they would come across on screen.
It's the first time I've seen a film in the rough cut and felt like I had no part in it. But there were so many surprises, so much that I hadn't seen in the process.
I agree.
So it's kind of great. So almost all the time when you work on film, you're so taken back to what the situation was when you were working that you can't watch a film. I think I remember that moment.
Is there anything you order is free of charge?
Why is it free of charge? Whatever. I'll have the clam chowder, the fried chicken, and the baked potato, and everything in charge.
Clean food, please.
No unchained, please.
funny how everybody, talked so much about the violence in this movie, and nobody talked about how funny it is. And this is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen.
There is certainly an element of violence to this movie, but its title says Fight Club. What did you expect? I think it's like you go into it knowing that there is going to be an element of violence to it, but it's certainly not any more violent than 90% of the movies that you see. And there's actually only one killing in the whole movie, and it's done by a police officer. I have a 3-year-old and a 2.5-year-old, and I watched Ants for the first time about 3 weeks ago. There's a sequence in that where they're just decimating these termites, and the termites that are whacking ants, and limbs are flying across the screen, and ants are being decapitated. And I don't recall anybody talking about the violence of ants. That's odd to me. This movie is certainly funnier than when I initially read the script, what I thought it would be.
It's a lot funnier than Ants.
It's funnier than ants.
All right, we're out of here.
You're intolerable. You have very serious emotional problems. Deep-seated problems.
What's up, Reverend?
Emotional health. You're right.
Yeah, practicing this stream thing. I'm gonna watch it and see how the audio is and stuff. See ya. You want some fitness advice? Drop in. Let's talk. What's up? What's up?